My own son called me construction trash at a $50,000 a plate charity gala at the Palmer House Hilton. I'm Jack Sullivan, and for 26 years I truly believed I was raising a grateful kid. What Austin had no idea about that night, while he stood there in his $6,000 tuxedo looking down at my calloused hands like they were something disgusting, was that every single brick in his mother's $120 million real estate empire, every steel beam holding up his spoiled lifestyle, every foundation keeping his entire world from collapsing, I had built with these same hands he'd just called trash. And in exactly 72 hours those same hands were going to sign the documents that would strip everything away and leave him with nothing but a $15 McDonald's gift card and a lesson in respect he would never forget. I didn't say a word that night, didn't raise my voice, didn't cause a scene. I just looked him in the eye, gave the smallest smile, and walked away, because sometimes the quietest response carries the loudest message. To understand how a lowly construction worker ended up legally owning his own son's entire future, you have to go back to where it all began. The first time I realized Austin was ashamed of me was 3 years ago, December 15, 2021, his college graduation party at the Riverside Country Club. I showed up straight from a job site in my 2015 Ford F-150, Sullivan Construction Group magnets still on both doors, tailgate dented, work boots caked in dried concrete. Austin's friends, trust fund kids named Bryce, Tristan, and Hunter, were all there in their loafers and quarter-zip sweaters. I watched my son introduce every single person to his mother, Rebecca Grant Sullivan, the beautiful, brilliant real estate developer who owned Grant Sullivan Development. Then I walked over. "Dad," Austin said, and I heard the apology in his tone, like my very existence required explanation. "This is my father, he works in construction." Not, "He owns one of the largest commercial construction firms in Chicago." Not, "He built half the skyline you post on Instagram." Just, "He works in construction," like I was the guy who showed up to pour the sidewalk. Bryce glanced down at my 15-year-old Timberland steel toes, scarred and cracked from decades of hard use, smirked, and immediately turned back to his friends. What none of them knew was that the country club we were standing in, the one they thought made them so superior, I had built the entire east wing in 2006. The marble floors they were posing on, the crystal chandelier Austin was taking selfies under, every girder and beam, my crew and I put it all in place. My company's contract portfolio that year alone was $12 million. The dented truck outside held blueprints for projects worth more than all their parents' houses combined. I could have said something. Instead I congratulated Austin, shook a few limp hands, and left early. Rebecca found me in the parking lot. "Jack, you don't have to take that." "It's fine," I told her, "he's young, he'll figure it out." But it wasn't fine, and Austin never figured it out, he only got worse. The second red flag came last summer when Austin brought his girlfriend Madison home. She was studying architecture at Northwestern and was genuinely excited about the renovation we'd done on our Lincoln Park brownstone. She ran her hand along the custom crown molding in the dining room and said, "This craftsmanship is incredible, who did this work?" "Some contractor," Austin cut in before I could open my mouth. "Dad, can you grab us some drinks?" Madison looked confused. I was standing right there. "Actually," I said, "I did the crown molding, the built-ins, the kitchen island, everything you're looking at." Her eyes lit up. "Seriously? The joinery on these cabinets is museum quality, where did you learn this?" Austin jumped in again. "Dad's always been handy with tools." Handy with tools, like I was some weekend warrior with a YouTube channel. I looked him dead in the eye. "I've been a carpenter for 30 years, son, started Sullivan Construction Group in 1994. Austin's face went red. Later, after Madison left, he cornered me in the garage. "Why do you always have to make everything about your job?" I wasn't, she asked a question. "You embarrassed me, she thinks we're working class." I just stared at him. "Austin, what do you think built every single thing you're standing in right now?" "Mom's a real estate developer, she's successful." I gestured at the 3-car garage, the Bentley Bentayga he drove, the 6-bedroom house. "And who built her first development? Who taught her everything she knows about construction costs, timelines, and permits? Who put my company's assets on the line when the banks wouldn't finance a 24-year-old woman with no track record?" Austin shrugged. "I don't know, some partner." Some partner. That was the moment I realized my own son had no idea who I actually was. The truth he never bothered to learn. I built Rebecca's first apartment building in 1998 with my own crew, my own equipment, and my reputation as collateral. When traditional banks laughed her out of the room, I personally guaranteed every construction loan. When they demanded a cosigner, I signed my name. We formed Grant Sullivan Development LLC that same year, 78% me, 22% Rebecca, because I brought the expertise, the relationships, and the capital risk. We got married 2 years later, and for 26 years I've been the invisible backbone of everything Austin thought was Mom's empire. Every permit, every inspection, every certificate of occupancy in Rebecca's $120 million portfolio has my signature somewhere in the chain. I wasn't just her husband, I was the foundation. But to Austin, the calloused hands that built his world were something to hide. The breaking point came Thanksgiving weekend 2024. Rebecca was hosting her annual charity board brunch for 23 of Chicago's most powerful women, including Victoria Ashworth, chair of the Palmer House Foundation and old money royalty. Austin arrived early in his Tom Six Ford suit. I was in the kitchen helping the caterers because I'd just fixed a loose deck railing out back, still in jeans and my Sullivan construction polo. "Dad," Austin hissed, "what are you doing? You can't be in here looking like that." Rebecca walked in. "Austin, what's wrong?" "He's going to embarrass you in front of the board." Rebecca hesitated, then said softly, "Jack, maybe change into something more formal?" I looked at the woman I'd built an empire with and saw embarrassment in her eyes. "For me." Austin pressed the knife deeper. "Better yet, Dad, why don't you just leave for a few hours? Come back after they're gone." "This is my house," I said quietly. "Actually," Austin sneered, "it's Mom's house, her name's on the deed, her company paid for it, you just live here." The catering staff froze. Rebecca said nothing. She should have shut him down. Instead she whispered, "Jack, maybe it would be easier if you gave us some space today." I left my own house and drove around Lincoln Park for 3 hours while my son played host in the dining room I'd renovated with my own hands. When I came back, Austin was waiting. "We need to talk, this can't keep happening." "What can't keep happening?" "You making everything awkward. Mom's building something important, her charity work, her social network, it all matters for the business, and you don't fit." The words hit like a sledgehammer. "Act like I belong?" I repeated. "These people judge everything, what you wear, what you drive, what you do for work. When they see you, they make assumptions about Mom." "That she married down?" Austin hesitated, then went for the kill. "Yes." I stared at the kid I'd put through private schools, paid college tuition for without a single loan, sacrificed sleep and weekends for. "You think I married down?" "I think you don't understand what Mom's accomplished. She's worth $120 million, she could have any man she wanted. And she chose me. That was a long time ago." The implication was crystal clear. Rebecca had outgrown me, Austin was ashamed of me, and if I wanted to keep my marriage, I needed to shrink, skip the galas, take separate cars, stay in the background, let Rebecca shine alone. The stakes weren't just pride anymore. Rebecca was pulling away. Separate cars to events. Introducing herself as Rebecca Grant Sullivan instead of just Sullivan. Taking Austin's side in every argument. If I stayed quiet, I would become exactly what my son already believed I was, the hired help living in a house I didn't belong in. But Austin had made one fatal mistake. He assumed that because I never fought back, I couldn't. Rebecca's 48th birthday party, December 10th, was the final straw. Austin had planned an intimate dinner for 30 catered by Alinea, $25,000 budget. I found out from the invoice. When I asked why my brother Danny, a plumber, and his wife weren't invited, Austin said, they wouldn't fit the vibe. Translation, blue-collar people would embarrass him in front of Victoria Ashworth, whose foundation controlled $40 million in annual giving Rebecca desperately wanted to partner with. That night I showed up in my best navy suit, tailored, expensive, the kind of outfit Austin couldn't critique even if he wanted to. But he still looked nervous when I walked into our living room. "Dad, you came. Told you I would." Rebecca was holding court near the fireplace in a dress that cost more than my truck. She looked beautiful, she also looked surprised to see me. "Jack, I didn't know you were planning to attend." "It's your birthday." "I know, but you usually prefer quiet evenings." Victoria Ashworth was standing 3 feet away listening, tall, silver-haired, diamonds that could fund a small country. She extended her hand. "You must be Rebecca's husband, Victoria Ashworth." "Jack Sullivan, pleasure. Rebecca speaks of you often." I doubted that, but I smiled. "All good things, I hope. She mentioned you work in construction." "I do." Austin appeared at my elbow like a nervous handler. "Dad, can I get you something to drink?" "I'm fine." Victoria continued. "How fascinating, what type of construction?" "Commercial development, mostly apartment buildings, office complexes for local developers, among others." Austin was practically vibrating with anxiety. He knew this conversation was dangerous but couldn't figure out how to stop it. "Rebecca's done so well with her real estate ventures," Victoria said, "such impressive properties in her portfolio." Yes, they are impressive. I'm particularly fond of the Lakeshore Drive building. The craftsmanship is exceptional. Thank you. Victoria tilted her head. Thank you. I built it. Austin made a choking sound. Victoria looked confused. I'm sorry? Sullivan Construction Group, my company, we were the general contractor. How wonderful, so you worked on Rebecca's first project. I worked on all of Rebecca's projects. The conversation around us had started to quiet, people were listening now. Austin stepped forward. Dad, Mrs. Ashworth was just saying how much she admires Mom's business acumen. She should, Rebecca's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Victoria agreed. To build a $120 million portfolio from nothing, remarkable for a woman in real estate. Austin smiled, thinking the conversation was safely back on track. I said, well, she didn't build it from nothing. Silence. Victoria raised an eyebrow. Oh? She had a partner, someone who provided the construction expertise, the contractor relationships, the project financing. Austin's face was turning red. Dad. Someone who knew how to manage subcontractors, handle city permits, navigate union negotiations. How fortunate for Rebecca, Victoria said, and where is this partner now? I smiled. Right here. The room went completely silent. Victoria looked from me to Rebecca to Austin. I'm afraid I don't understand. Austin jumped in desperately. What my father means is that he's worked on Mom's projects as a contractor, it's been a good business relationship. Is that what you mean, Jack? Victoria asked. No, Austin looked like he wanted to disappear. What I mean, I continued, is that Rebecca and I are partners, equal partners, Grant Sullivan Development, I own 78%. Victoria's mouth dropped open slightly. Rebecca appeared beside us. Jack, what are you doing? Answering Victoria's questions about our business. Our business. Grant Sullivan Development, the company we founded together in 1998. Victoria looked at Rebecca. Rebecca, is this true? Rebecca's face was flushed. It's complicated. Is it? I asked, is it complicated that we're married business partners who've spent 26 years building wealth together? Austin was panicking. Dad, people don't need to hear about business stuff at a party. Why not? Because it's boring. Is it boring that your trust fund exists because your blue-collar father owns the majority share of the company you've been bragging about? Gasps from around the room. Victoria Ashworth stepped back. I think I'm missing something important here. Austin lost it. Fine, he shouted, you want to know the truth? My father is a construction worker, he works with his hands, he gets dirty for a living, he drives a beat-up truck and wears work boots and he's embarrassing. Dead silence. Austin, Rebecca whispered, but Austin was beyond caring. I'm tired of pretending, Mom is successful and sophisticated and accomplished, Dad is what he is, and I'm sick of everyone acting like they're the same thing. Victoria Ashworth looked horrified. I stayed perfectly calm. Austin, I said quietly, what am I? You're a construction worker, what else? Nothing else matters? What else am I? Austin's voice rose higher. You're someone who embarrasses our family every time you show up somewhere dressed like you just came from a job site. The room was so quiet you could hear the ice melting in people's drinks. Austin, I said, still calm, what do you think pays for this house? Mom's company. What company? Grant Development. Grant Sullivan Development, who do you think owns Grant Sullivan Development? Mom does. Check the paperwork. I don't care about paperwork. You should. Austin was unraveling completely now. You know what, Dad? I don't care what some papers say, I don't care if you helped Mom in the beginning, you're still just a construction worker, you'll always be just a construction worker, and you'll never be good enough for this family. 23 people stood frozen. Victoria Ashworth looked like she'd witnessed a car accident. Rebecca was staring at her son in horror. I nodded slowly. Well, I said, I guess we know where we stand. I turned and walked toward the door. Where are you going? Rebecca called. To make some phone calls. What kind of phone calls? I looked back at the room full of shocked faces. The kind that change things. I left the party and drove straight to Nathan Pierce's office Saturday night, but Nathan lived above his law practice on LaSalle Street, old-school Chicago attorney who'd been handling my business for 15 years. Jack, he said when he answered his door at 11 p.m., I figured you'd be calling tonight. Did you bring the documents? All of them. Coffee, make it strong. Nathan's office was wall-to-wall legal books, file cabinets full of contracts, deeds, and partnership agreements that told the real story of Chicago real estate development, including mine. Before we start, Nathan said, are you sure about this? Austin needs to understand reality. This is nuclear, Jack, once you activate those liens. My son just publicly humiliated me in my own house, called me embarrassing, said I'm not good enough for my own family. Nathan nodded grimly. Okay, here's what we have. He spread documents across his conference table: partnership agreements, construction contracts, property deeds, bank statements, 26 years of paperwork. Grant Sullivan Development LLC, formed April 1998, you hold 78% ownership, Rebecca holds 22%. Correct. Total portfolio value $119.3 million. Correct. Austin's trust fund, current balance $2.7 million. Correct. Now, here's what Austin doesn't know. Nathan pulled out a thick folder. Every property in Rebecca's portfolio was built using construction loans guaranteed by Sullivan Construction Group. Right. Which means Sullivan Construction Group holds mechanics liens on every property. How much total? Nathan checked his calculator. $89.3 million. I leaned back. Nearly $90 million in liens, all legally perfected, all enforceable, and if I choose to exercise those liens, you could force the sale of every property to satisfy the debt immediately within 72 hours of filing the notice. My phone buzzed, text from Rebecca, "Where are you? People are asking questions." I showed Nathan. "Your wife doesn't know about the liens, does she?" "Rebecca knows I'm her business partner, she doesn't know I hold the power to dissolve the partnership." Nathan whistled. "Jack, this would destroy her. Austin destroyed something tonight, too." My phone rang. "Rebecca. Jack, you need to come home." "Why?" "Victoria Ashworth is still here, she's asking questions about our business structure." "Let her ask. She's concerned about the partnership arrangement." "She should be." "What does that mean?" "It means Victoria Ashworth is about to get an education in who actually controls the money she's been courting." "Jack, what are you planning?" "I'm planning to tell the truth." I hung up. Nathan was watching me carefully. "You know there's no going back from this." "There's no going back from what Austin said tonight either." "Fair enough, what do you want me to do?" "File the lien activation paperwork." "When?" "Now." "Jack, it's Saturday night." "Emergency filing, you know the judge." Nathan sighed and reached for his phone. "Judge Harrison, Nathan Pierce, I need an emergency filing. Yes, I know what time it is." 20 minutes later Nathan had the signatures he needed. "It's done," he said, "liens are active as of midnight tonight, enforcement begins Monday morning." "How long before Austin's accounts are frozen?" "His trust fund disbursements, 48 hours, and the properties, 72 hours to satisfy the debt or face forced sale." I stood up. "Then I guess we better head back to the party." You're coming with me." "Jack, I don't think Victoria Ashworth wants to know about business structures." "You're going to explain them to her." We drove back to Lincoln Park in Nathan's Mercedes. The party was still going, though it had clearly shifted into damage control mode. Rebecca was trying to maintain normalcy while Austin sulked in a corner. Victoria Ashworth intercepted me at the door. "Jack, I'm glad you're back. I think there's been some confusion tonight." "No confusion," Austin was very clear. "Perhaps we could discuss this privately." "I'd prefer to discuss it publicly since my son chose to humiliate me publicly." "Jack." Rebecca appeared. "Victoria and I were just talking about the foundation partnership opportunity." "Were you?" "Yes, and I think there might be some misunderstanding about our business arrangement." Nathan stepped forward. "Mrs. Grant Sullivan, Mrs. Ashworth, I'm Nathan Pierce, corporate counsel for Sullivan Construction Group." Victoria's eyebrows shot up. "Corporate counsel?" Nathan opened his briefcase. "Perhaps I can clear up any confusion about the business structure. This is the original partnership agreement for Grant Sullivan Development, filed with the state of Illinois in April 1998. Austin emerged from his corner. "What's happening?" "Your education," I said. Nathan continued. "The partnership structure is quite clear. Jack Sullivan holds majority ownership at 78%, Rebecca Grant Sullivan holds 22%. Victoria looked stunned. 78%. Additionally, Nathan said, producing another document, Sullivan Construction Group holds perfected mechanics liens on all properties in the Grant Sullivan Development portfolio. "What does that mean?" Victoria asked. Nathan smiled. "It means Jack Sullivan doesn't just own the majority of the company, he holds legal claim to every property the company owns." Austin's face went white. "What? Total value of liens?" $89.3 million. Victoria Ashworth sat down heavily in the nearest chair. Rebecca stared at Nathan. "What liens, Jack? What is he talking about?" Construction loans, I said simply. Every property we built together was financed through construction loans guaranteed by my company. So, those loans created liens, legal claims against the properties? Austin's voice was barely a whisper. What does that mean? Nathan answered. It means your father could force the sale of every property to satisfy the debt. When? I filed the activation paperwork tonight. Enforcement begins Monday. Austin collapsed into a chair. My trust fund comes from company profits. Nathan said, if the company is dissolved to satisfy outstanding debt, there's no trust fund. The room was dead silent. Victoria Ashworth looked from me to Rebecca to Austin. I think, she said slowly, I've been operating under some significant misconceptions tonight. She stood up and walked directly to me. Mr. Sullivan, I owe you an apology. I was led to believe that Rebecca was the sole owner of this remarkable real estate empire. Rebecca is an excellent businesswoman, I said. We've built this together. But you're the majority owner. I am. Victoria turned to Austin. Young man, I think you owe your father more than an apology. Austin couldn't speak. Victoria looked back at me. Mr. Sullivan, the Palmer House Foundation would be honored to discuss partnership opportunities with the actual owner of Grant Sullivan Development. The status reversal was complete. Austin, who'd spent the evening calling me embarrassing, was now sitting in a chair facing the reality that his trust fund existence depended entirely on the good graces of the blue-collar father he just publicly disrespected. Now, I said calmly, I think it's time for some consequences. Monday morning, 9 a.m. sharp, I walked into the offices of Grant Sullivan Development with Nathan Pierce and two paralegals carrying bankers' boxes full of documents. Rebecca was already at her desk looking like she hadn't slept. Austin was sitting in the conference room staring at his phone. We need to talk, I said. Rebecca looked up. Jack, about Saturday night. Saturday night was educational, today is about business. Nathan placed a document on Rebecca's desk. Notice of lien enforcement filed this morning with Cook County. Rebecca's hands shook as she read. Jack, what is this? $89.3 million in construction liens, all legally perfected, all enforceable against our properties, against properties owned by Grant Sullivan Development where Sullivan Construction Group holds legal claim for construction costs. Austin appeared in the doorway. Dad, you can't do this. I can, I am. Nathan pulled out another document. Dissolution notice for Austin Sullivan's trust fund, effective immediately. Austin's face went completely white. What? The trust fund was established using company profits. If the company is dissolved to satisfy outstanding debt, there's no trust fund. I finished. Austin dropped into a chair. How much is left? Nathan consulted his notes. After fees and liquidation costs, approximately $15, we'll send you a McDonald's gift card. Rebecca stood up. Jack, this is insane, you're destroying our life's work. Our life's work? Yes, our life's work. Rebecca, Saturday night in front of 23 people our son called me embarrassing, said I wasn't good enough for this family, said I was just a construction worker who didn't belong. He was angry. He was honest. I walked to the window overlooking Lakeshore Drive. You know what's down there? The first building we built together 26 years ago, you remember that day. Rebecca's voice was quiet. Of course, we signed the partnership papers in your Honda Civic because we couldn't afford an office. You were wearing a $20 dress from Target, I was wearing work clothes because I'd come straight from the site. Jack, we were partners then, equal partners. I provided the construction expertise, you handled the development side, we built something together. We're still partners. Are we? Because Saturday night when our son was publicly humiliating me, you stood there and said nothing. Rebecca's eyes filled with tears. I didn't know what to say. You could have said, Austin, your father owns 78% of this company. You were embarrassed. Of what? Of the scene he was making, or of me? Long silence. Rebecca answered the question. Were you embarrassed of me? More silence. That's what I thought. Nathan placed another document on Rebecca's desk. Asset freeze notification, all company accounts are frozen pending lien resolution. What does that mean? Rebecca asked. It means no access to company funds until the debt is satisfied. Austin's phone had been buzzing constantly. Dad, the bank is calling, they're saying my credit cards are declined. Correct. But I have a dinner tonight with Madison's parents. Order pizza. Dad, this is serious, how am I supposed to pay for anything? Get a job. Austin stared at me like I'd suggested he grow wings and fly. A job, employment, work, the thing your blue-collar father has been doing for 30 years to pay for your lifestyle. What kind of job? Any kind, construction's hiring. Austin's voice rose to a whine. I can't work construction. Why not? I'm not qualified. Neither was I when I started, I learned. Rebecca was reading through the legal documents. Jack, how do we fix this? Easy, Austin apologizes, he'll apologize publicly. What? Same room, same people. Austin acknowledges that he was wrong about his construction worker father, acknowledges that his privileged lifestyle was funded by blue-collar work, acknowledges that he owes his opportunities to the man he called embarrassing. Austin was panicking. Dad, you can't make me. I can't make you do anything, but I can leave those liens in place forever. What happens if I don't apologize? Nathan answered, forced sale of all properties within 60 days, total dissolution of Grant Sullivan development, complete liquidation of assets. And my trust fund already gone. Austin looked at his mother desperately. Mom. Rebecca looked at the documents, then at me. Jack, what do you want? I want respect, I want acknowledgement, I want my family to understand that blue-collar work built their white-collar lifestyle, and if Austin does this, if he apologizes publicly, liens are lifted, trust fund is restored, business continues as normal, and if he doesn't, we start over, all of us. Austin was doing the math. How long do I have to decide? Nathan checked his watch. 48 hours until final asset seizure. And there's no other way. There's always another way, I said, get a job, pay your own bills, learn what work actually means. Austin stared at me with a mix of fear and hatred. 48 hours, I repeated, choose wisely. By Tuesday evening Austin had learned what real consequences felt like. His Bentley was repossessed, apparently the lease payments came directly from his trust fund which no longer existed. His credit cards were cancelled, the American Express black card he'd been so proud of, worthless plastic. His apartment in River North, eviction notice on the door, the rent had been automatically debited from an account that was now frozen. Madison found out about everything when Austin couldn't pay for dinner at Alinea, $200 per person tasting menu and Austin's card was declined 3 times. I know this because Madison called Rebecca crying. Mrs. Sullivan, I don't understand what's happening, Austin says your husband destroyed his life. Rebecca was sitting in our kitchen at 10 p.m. still reading through the legal documents Nathan had left. It's complicated, Madison. Is it true that Austin doesn't have any money? Currently, no. But why? Rebecca looked at me, I nodded. Because Austin publicly disrespected his father without understanding that his father owns everything Austin thought was his. I don't understand. Austin's trust fund came from company profits, Jack owns the company. Oh my God. Madison, can I ask you something? In all the time you've known Austin, what has he told you about Jack? Just that he works construction, that he's kind of embarrassing. And what did you think when you met Jack? I thought he was incredibly knowledgeable about building and design, and I thought Austin was rude to him. Rebecca looked at me again. Madison, Jack doesn't work construction, Jack owns Sullivan Construction Group, he's built every major development in Austin's mother's portfolio. Are you saying Austin's been lying to me? I'm saying Austin's been lying to himself. Madison hung up. An hour later Austin showed up at our door, he looked terrible, unshaven, wearing the same clothes from yesterday, carrying a duffel bag. I need a place to stay, he said. Why? I asked. Because I got evicted. Where have you been staying? Bryce's couch, but his parents found out about the money situation and told him I had to leave. Rebecca started to move toward him but I held up a hand. Austin, what's the money situation? You know what it is. I want to hear you say it. Austin's jaw was tight. I don't have any money. Why don't you have any money? Because you took it. I didn't take anything, I exercised legal rights to assets that belong to me. It's the same thing. Is it? Who earned the money in your trust fund? Austin was silent. Austin, who earned the money? You and Mom. Who owns the company that generated the profits that funded your lifestyle? You and Mom. In what percentages? Long pause. You own most of it. How much is most? 78%. So when you called me a construction worker who embarrasses the family, what were you actually saying? Austin's voice was barely audible. That the man who pays for everything embarrasses me. And how does that make you sound? Longer pause. Ungrateful. Rebecca was watching this exchange with growing understanding. Austin, she said, sit down. He collapsed into a kitchen chair. I need to tell you something about your father and me, about how all this started. She looked at me, I nodded. In 1998 I was 24 years old, I had a college degree in business and big dreams about real estate development, I also had no money, no connections, and no idea how construction actually worked. Austin was listening. I met your father at a coffee shop on Halsted. He was reading blueprints for a project his company was bidding on. I asked him about it and he spent 2 hours explaining construction financing, project management, and contractor relationships. Okay. 3 weeks later I had an idea for my first development project, a small apartment building. I needed a construction partner who could handle the building side while I handled the development side. So you hired Dad's company? No, I asked your father to be my business partner. Austin looked confused. But you're the successful one. Austin, who do you think taught me everything I know about real estate development? You learned it in college. College taught me theory, your father taught me reality. Every deal I've ever negotiated, every contractor relationship I've built, every project timeline I've managed, your father taught me how to do all of it. But you're the one with the business degree. And your father is the one with 30 years of experience building things that people actually live and work in. Austin looked from Rebecca to me. So you're saying he's not just a construction worker? Austin, Rebecca said patiently, your father owns the construction company, he's the CEO of Sullivan Construction Group, but he dresses like a worker because he works. He's on job sites every day solving problems, managing crews, ensuring quality. He doesn't sit in an office wearing suits. That's embarrassing. Rebecca's voice got sharp. What's embarrassing? Having a father who gets his hands dirty. Austin, look at your hands. Austin held up his hands, soft, manicured, no calluses, no scars, no evidence of any kind of work. Now look at your father's hands. I held up my hands, calloused, scarred, marked by 30 years of honest work. Which hands built the life you've been living? Austin stared at our hands. Austin, Rebecca continued, every comfort you've ever known, every opportunity you've ever had, every dollar you've ever spent, it came from your father's work. But I thought it came from your success. My success came from partnership with your father. Austin looked around our kitchen, custom cabinets, granite countertops, high-end appliances. Did Dad build this kitchen? With his own hands. Austin was finally beginning to understand. The trust fund, he said quietly, it really comes from his work. Our work, but yes, ultimately from his expertise and labor. Austin looked at me. Dad, I'm sorry. For what specifically? For calling you embarrassing, what else? For being ashamed of your job, what else? For not understanding that you own the company, what else? Long pause. For being ungrateful for everything you've given me. I nodded. Better, so what happens now? That depends. On what? On whether you're ready to learn what work actually means. Wednesday morning, 6 a.m., I was in the garage when Austin appeared in the doorway. He was wearing jeans and a t-shirt instead of his usual designer clothes. Dad. Yeah. Can I work for you? I looked up from the blueprints I was reviewing. Doing what? Whatever you need, I want to learn the business. You sure about that? I need to understand what I've been taking for granted. I studied his face, no trace of the entitled kid who'd humiliated me 4 days ago. He looked humbled, maybe for the first time in his life. Construction work starts at 6 a.m. Okay. You'll be carrying materials, cleaning up job sites, taking orders from foremen who've been doing this since before you were born. Okay. You'll get dirty, your hands will get cut up, your back will hurt, and you'll earn minimum wage until you prove you can actually contribute. I understand. Do you? Austin nodded. I understand that I've never actually worked for anything in my life. That afternoon I took Austin to the Sullivan Construction Group office on West Lake Street. Nothing fancy, concrete floors, metal desks, walls covered with project photos and safety charts. This is where I started 30 years ago, I said, one desk, one phone, one truck. Austin looked around. It's not what I expected. What did you expect? Something more corporate. Austin, we build things, we don't need corporate offices, we need good tools and reliable trucks. I introduced him to the crew chiefs, the project managers, the estimators, guys named Danny and Mike and Steve who'd been with the company for decades, men who knew their trades, respected their work, and had no patience for entitled kids. This is my son Austin, I told them, he's going to be learning the business from the ground up. Danny Kowalski, my longest tenured foreman, looked Austin up and down. You ever worked construction? No, sir. You afraid of heights? I don't think so. You afraid of hard work? Austin hesitated. I'm about to find out. Danny smiled. Fair enough, you start Monday, bring work boots and gloves, real ones, not fashion ones. That evening at dinner Rebecca asked Austin about his day. It was educational, he said. Did you know Dad employs 43 people? I did. And that Sullivan Construction Group has contracts worth $18 million this year alone? I did. And that Danny Kowalski has been with the company for 22 years because Dad helped him buy his house when he couldn't get a bank loan? Rebecca smiled. I know all of this, Austin, the question is why didn't you? Because I never asked. Austin turned to me. Dad, can I ask you something? Sure. Why didn't you ever tell me about owning the company, about being Mom's business partner, about any of it? I thought about that. Because I wanted you to judge me based on my character, not my bank account. But you let me think you were just an employee. You assumed I was just an employee, there's a difference. But you could have corrected me. I could have, but I wanted to see if you'd respect me for who I am, not what I own. Austin looked down at his plate. And I failed that test. You did, for 3 years. What would you have done if I'd never figured it out? Eventually I would have let you make your own way in the world, no trust fund, no family connections, no safety net, just your college degree and whatever work ethic you could develop. You would have cut me off. Austin, I did cut you off, the trust fund is gone. Austin's eyes widened permanently. That depends on what? On whether you can earn it back. I pulled out a document Nathan had prepared. New trust fund agreement, you can qualify for reinstatement by working for Sullivan Construction Group for 2 years full-time, proving you understand the value of work. 2 years. 2 years of learning how money is actually made, 2 years of understanding what it means to build something with your hands, 2 years of earning the respect of people like Danny Kowalski. Austin read through the agreement. What if I can't do it? What if I'm not cut out for construction work? Then you'll find something else you are cut out for, but you'll do it on your own without family money. And if I complete the 2 years, trust fund restored. Plus you'll own 5% of Sullivan Construction Group. Austin looked up sharply. Really? Really, but you'll have earned it. Rebecca was smiling. Austin, what do you think? Austin looked at both of us. I think I've been an entitled brat who never understood how lucky I was, and now I want to learn, I want to understand what Dad's been trying to teach me my whole life. I reached across the table and shook his hand. Welcome to the real world, son. 2 weeks later I got a text from Danny Kowalski. Kids got potential, showed up early every day, didn't complain once about the grunt work and asked good questions about the trade. You raised him right, Jack, just took him a while to figure it out. The lesson Austin learned wasn't just about money or work or family respect, it was about understanding that dignity comes from contribution, not inheritance, that respect is earned through character, not status, and that the people you look down on might just be the foundation everything else is built on. Sometimes the hardest lessons are the most valuable ones, and sometimes it takes losing everything to understand what you actually had. If you're watching this because you've been underestimated by people who should know better, remember, quiet power is still power, and foundations have a way of making themselves known when the structure starts to shake. What's your story? Let me know in the comments where you're watching from and whether you've ever had to teach someone to respect what they've been taking for granted.